When you hear the word welcome, what comes to your mind? Well, that's today's topic. Your ministry can have fantastic worship. Think about it, where students are given an opportunity to connect with their creator and their redeemer. That was 2 weeks ago's conversation. Well, your ministry can also have insightful and practical teaching from the Word of God, where students are given the chance to grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. That was last episode. But if a student does not feel welcome in the ministry where they attend, I believe this all falls apart. Something I've said for years, it goes like this. While Christ-likeness is the goal, relationships are the glue. So as you listen to the conversation in today's podcast, I want you to be thinking through this. Does your ministry truly have an authentic, welcoming culture? Well, hey, friend, welcome to the NextGen Matters podcast, a show for ministry leaders seeking to move beyond overwhelm and move into leading with clarity, confidence, and consistency. Today is very special for me. I had the privilege to bring in a dear friend of mine joining into this conversation. Justin Lucas is the student director at Mercy Hills Church in Greensboro, North Carolina. I was thinking today, I met Justin. It was right about 21 years ago now, when he was 18. And I saw him begin to grow up as a young man, but I have seen him the last number of years truly become a man of God. When I think of a youth pastor that could take any one of these 5 areas we've been looking into, worship, the word, today, welcome, then witness and work, Justin could crush any one of these 5. He was so gracious to take this one. So Justin, I just want to say, I have been so delighted to see you become a pros pro in student ministry. And it's been almost 20 years for you now. So you're about where I was when I became a prof, like for you.
Yeah.
That's when I met him, was his freshman year at Liberty University. I was his teacher, right?
Yeah.
So Justin, welcome to the NextGen Matters podcast, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Let me just say to everybody listening or watching today, I've been doing student ministry for just under 20 years, and Doc has been just a mentor in my life the whole time. And before I kind of go into the rest of it, I would love to say, like, there was a season, I'd gone through a lot of things, and a season in my life where multiple seasons where I was ready to just kind of throw in the towel. And every time Doc's presence was there in my life, kind of holding the rope for me, just kind of helping me to not kind of go under. But then I remember I was right at the edge. I was ready to walk out, and I took the sustainable course. And I just want to tell you, for those of you guys in that world, that meant everything to me. And I don't know I'd be where I'm at today without it. And so, Doc, I just want to publicly say thank you for honestly how you changed my life. And so I really do mean that. I don't say that lightly. But those who are kind of considering stepping out, maybe give it a shot, take sustainable, walk through that, and then make your decision afterwards. But I mean, I love talking about this subject of being like welcoming environments is important to me because I have a son who's going into the 6th grade. And in my role now at Mercy Hill, I get to set the strategy, the content, and I get to manage and coach my staff, my teams, and my campuses. And so, man, this is near and dear to my heart. So I'm looking forward to it.
Right. And let's set that up a little bit. You and Chris have been married how many years now?
Oh, gosh. We got married January of 2009. So whatever the math is there, that's 17 years. Yeah, 17 years. That's wild, dude.
Yep. And you got 2 little dudes who aren't little anymore.
No. So my oldest is in 5th grade. My youngest is in 3rd grade. Both wild boys. So we work in the Greensboro area, but we live in the country. We're a little bit of barn cats. But we do that so that my ADHD buck wild boys can just kind of take their shirts off and run out in the backyard, and we don't even care. Our neighbors are cows and horses for that reason.
Do the ATV.
Yeah, no, for real.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's cool because a number of years ago, I was speaking at a church in an hour away in Roanoke, Virginia. And this precious lady walks up to me and she goes, my son, Justin Lucas. And I just gave her a hug.
Yeah. That was my sweet
and she hugged back. It was all good, right?
Yeah.
And I got to know Justin's mom and dad. And it was so cool for me to to get to know them. And then those few weeks I was preaching there, kind of in between lead pastors, right? To get to have this relationship with them. And of course, the big thing now is, your mom and I are Facebook friends, your
Yeah.
dad and I are Facebook friends.
Yeah. So
That's the importance.
you can tell on me if I ever do anything wrong. That's really what it is.
But yeah, Justin and Kristen, oh my goodness. Let me make this really quick. I remember back, it was one of your first ministries.
Yeah.
You came up to the university, and I think it was College for Weekend.
Yep.
And we spent an hour in my office, and all three of us were sobbing like babies.
Oh yeah.
The hurt that you were going through, and the fact you didn't quit.
Mm.
And then the next station, if you will, the next environment that God placed you in, the next church, was not easy either.
No.
And yet you have consistently been just not in the game, but you've consistently grown through it and not given up and not quit. And I'm going to bring Justin in another podcast, probably the next few episodes, going down to his place there in North Carolina to just really walk through even some of that. But that's another conversation.
Yeah.
We're going to look into the idea here of welcome. And when I say welcome, let's define the term.
Yeah.
I'm not saying welcome meaning what's your standard operating procedure, your SOP for how to onboard a brand new student. That's important. But to me, welcome is going way beyond just that. Does the new person feel like they belong? That's important. But when I say welcome, I'm thinking at all times, whether it's your lead pastor's 10th grade daughter, the person who's always there, your staff members, kids, anybody who's there has that sense in their heart of I belong, I'm wanted here, and I'm valued here. There is that sense of, we use the word community. That's what I'm talking about. So, Justin, I have a number of questions for you. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, let's go.
What role does that sense of welcome, connection, community play within the life of a ministry, and then even your ministry?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been in a number of churches. So what role does welcome play in the life of a student ministry?
Well, let me just say, if you're a listener, you probably fall in one of two categories. You're either the person that's highly relational or a bit more administratively minded. And so the administratively minded person usually jumps to great environments, the way teams are structured, feels. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, but really, I think the person who's relational is like, duh, this is a no-brainer, I get it.
Yeah.
But I think the underlying side of it is that growth is built on the back of meaningful connections, not just great environments. So we have to say, hey, we have to be creating meaningful connections. But for the first-time guest, it's super, super important because we want them to come back. We want to retain them. But you got to also be consistently thinking about the retention of the kid who's bought in. Are they continuing to build great friendships? Are they truly known and loved by at least one leader? And I'll tell you, at Mercy Hill, we have big, big goals. We want to see a large number of baptisms. We want to see a large number of people sent out on mission. We're talking to the nations. We're talking, church planting, big things. We want to see all this. But if you want to go from point A to point B, that meaningful connection, this welcome concept, is huge for it. So let's just say somebody gets saved, they get baptized, but then they don't feel like they get connected. They don't feel like they're building friendships. It's hard for them to want to get back. So if you have this missions pipeline, it really doesn't even work if you have an absence of a welcoming environment, of connections, of community, however you want to word it. So you have to look at it and say, I have to be the person who spearheads this and leads in this, but I also have to set up other people to walk in this. We want to have pathways to help people go from connected to the crowd to committed to the family. You can't just assume it's going to happen. So be the person, but also have the process. Yeah.
Yes and yes.
Yeah.
And I love that, because we do need to have, in a sense, I'll use the word organization or operating procedures. We do have to have the word you use. I love it. Pathway. What have we created?
Yeah.
So when a new person walks in, and I've said it like this in coaching I've done, what do you do when a new person, a teenager, is dropped off by their mom or dad at the parking lot or at that front door to that room where you have your environment, your worship center, whatever, your auditorium, whatever, your youth room, right?
Yeah.
And by the time that parent then picks them back up that night and they say, hey, honey, how did it go? Are they going to say, I never want to go there again?
Yeah.
Or are they going to say, they're just like shouting crazy stuff like, I just can't wait to come back next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Justin,
Absolutely.
how do we get that student, that newbie,
Oh man.
to have that experience where they're like, Dad, Mom, I can't wait to go next week?
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
All right. So if we kind of want to say, how do we build this culture? Is really what we're after,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like, we want to build a culture of being welcome. You want to be known for that. So it's one thing to say, like, have you built a really great weekly program that people love to be at? Like, that's kind of like it's a part of it, right? But at the other side of it is like, man, when they actually show up, are they building the friendships? Are they being known by people in a way that says, like, I love being there? I've often said it like this in coaching environments. I've said, hey, I can get students to go dig ditches in the middle of the summer if I could promise them great community. Like,
Mm,
and like the most undesirable like situation, if there's great
mhm.
community, they'll go. They'll be a part of it. And so kind of going back to the people process thing, man, I love to kind of tackle people and then talk a little
Yeah,
bit about
do it.
process. um, so the first thing that we do is we say great leaders participate, they do not spectate. And that's just sort of a phrase that we use all the time. We say it until our leaders are absolutely sick of hearing it. But the reality is that our staff have to set the tone. Like we control the thermostat. So if I tell leaders you have to participate, not just spectate, but I'm off to the side, leaning against a wall, only talking to leaders, only talking to parents, like only like doing those things, then it's really hard for them to do that. We got to model to them what it looks like to get off of the bench and step into the game. I'll tell you from there, like you want to make sure that you have adequate amounts of volunteers so that you're not carrying the load by yourself. Like you need to replicate more people because if you're trying to carry, it doesn't matter if you have 4 kids or 400 kids. Like no matter what, like you can't be the only guy or the only girl leading in
Hmm.
that way. Make sure you have
Agreed.
teams, but then I would even say having team leaders in that to even help carry and shoulder the weight of replicating this culture. But then, man, I'm going to tell you, from a people standpoint, I would even say like sit down, draw what is a character profile for a
Mm,
welcoming individual is
mhm.
huge. Here's the 7 things that we say. We have 7
Okay.
in our character profile. We say this person needs to be high EQ. Um, if you're going to be a
Mhm.
welcoming individual, high EQ is important because you need to be able to read a room, help students understand
Yep.
what's going on, help them now. Their students by nature are low EQ creatures. We can't match that. We have to be above that so that we can help them navigate
Dude, I
life.
see that every Wednesday night
Dude,
with
it's
high
wild.
schoolers,
Yeah. So
let alone middle school.
yeah, so high EQ, and we have to be
Mhm.
approachable. So, I mean, it's like if you have that face that when you're emotionless, you just look angry at the world. Maybe force yourself to smile all night. Like, be self-aware, be approachable, be positive. So, there's going to be a lot of situations in student ministry where things go wrong, go awry. Like, you have to be a positive person. You can't let those things kind of
Right.
overwhelm you or overstress you. And if you're the type of person where they do, you need to actually set up a team leader who can handle all the logistics of the night so that you don't get overwhelmed by it. Because everybody's looking at the leader to have that kind of positive outlook on stuff, and they're looking
Mhm.
to our volunteers. So if you have somebody, if you can't handle the logistics plus the welcoming thing, give the logistics away. Um, the fourth thing is being proactive. And what I mean by that is like there will always be kids who are disconnected, whether it's a first time guest who showed up without any friends, or it's a
Mhm.
student who comes every night, but they're introverted, or maybe they're neurodivergent, or maybe they have all these other things. The proactive leader is operating in a high level of intentionality that says, like, I'm going to look to the corner, I'm going to see the kid, and I'm going to go after them. Like,
Mm.
that's the proactive leader says, I'm not going to wait for a need to arise. I will anticipate the needs of a welcoming environment, and I'm going to go make it
Mm.
happen.
Good for
Uh,
you. Hey, if I can jump in on that, I
yeah,
saw it again last night. We have a ninth grader, and I work with 11th and 12th grade guys, so
yeah,
that's my group, right? But, we have the first, 15, 20 minutes, 9 square, the whole thing,
yeah.
right? Just connection time. And he's always by himself. He sits by himself, and he's smaller. He's very thin.
Mm,
In other words, he looks like he's probably seventh grade,
mm-hmm,
but he's ninth grade at one of our local public high schools here, Jefferson
yeah,
Forest High
yeah,
School. And I pull for him.
yeah.
So I walked over to him last night and we're recording this on a Thursday, so Wednesday
Yeah.
night. And just again, I'm probably 45 years older than him.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Gosh,
I don't
yeah.
care.
Yeah.
And I, hey, how was the week so far? Just that simple conversation. I am not his leader. I don't care. I'm in the room
Yeah. Yeah.
and not pushing him, but just
Yeah.
yeah. So I love what you're saying. All of us, all hands on deck.
Absolutely. You have to look
Whether
at
it's me as the volunteer or you as the student lead,
yeah. Yeah. You have to
all
look at the
hands on deck.
whole thing, not just your little pocket. So we have a lot of group leaders. So it'll be like this guy has 7th grade guys, or these ladies have 10th grade girls or whatever. A lot of times they can get so isolated and so consumed with their little pocket that they'll miss people who aren't in their little grade and like group
Exactly.
level. So you have the proactive leader says, "Hey, it doesn't matter. Like I care about the whole." The intentional leader says, "I'm going to go do the thing, like whatever it is. I'm going to live with intentionality." It's the intentional group leader in that setting is saying like, "Hey, little Debbie cakes might make a more welcoming environment. I'm just going to go spend $3 at the Dollar General and get a few snacks." Now, the last two I think are really important on our list because number 6 is inquisitive, and I will tell you one of the biggest setbacks that I think some leaders have is that they want to tell their own story way more than they want to ask questions. And for a student to feel welcomed, they have to feel seen and valued. And so we have to be willing to kind of like table our own story in order to learn theirs. Like there will be a moment when it's appropriate to tell about whatever story you've got, but we have to ask good questions and get to know students and learn about who they are, and care about that more than saying whatever we want to say. And there'll be, like I said, there'll be moments for that, but that's just kind of reality. You want to make a kid feel seen, ask them about all the things they have going on, and take a genuine interest in it. The last one is energetic. Now that looks different for everybody. When I say energetic, people genuinely think, oh, the like peppy college kid who's bouncing around all over the place. The reality is I turned 40 this summer, and I love summer camp, but I'm grumpy in the mornings. That energy looks a lot different, right? So energetic doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means like I'm not going to be apathetic or lethargic. I'm going to actually step into it with joy, and like I'm going to love doing what I'm doing. And for us, that's the character profile of like a welcoming person, and we apply that a lot to our group leaders and to our people who are much more student facing. But you got to kind of even look at it for your own ministry and say, who are those people? Who do I need to put through that character profile? If it's like a production coordinator, man, you probably don't need to worry about that. But if they're in the parking lot greeting parents as they're dropping kids off, they absolutely need that. But if they're a group leader, they need that. Honestly, we have security teams. We put our security teams through this kind of conversation because they need to have high EQ when they're dealing with other issues. So
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I've seen the opposite.
Oh yeah. Like we want those guys. They're hyper vigilant. Like they're
right
taking their TRT shots and jacked out of their mind. But we want them to be physically intimidating, not relationally intimidating.
Right.
Yeah.
Jesus loves you, and so do I. Justin, what you have created, I love that. By the way, those 7, we're going to put in the show notes as well, because I want everyone to walk through these in your own mind. Also, something that I've heard before and I've really integrated into my own life, and this was back in my early 30s, so way back in the day. For me at least, was the idea, this one speaker said the idea of being friendly over function. And I began to really process that, and I've actually tweaked it a little bit where I say friendly with function.
Yeah.
Because I want everyone to do their function well.
Yeah.
And I think the classic case is where you worked in college. You were running Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Because you're delivering it to us at one of our big outreach events at Liberty. Called Scaremare.
Oh man.
Hey Doc, I got some extras. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, for real.
What I'm saying is Chick-fil-A has done that. That is their reputation because it's in their DNA.
Yeah.
It's friendly with function, high
Yeah.
functionality. They do their job well,
Mm.
but they also have that EQ.
Yeah.
And if you can't pull that off, well, then I won't
Yeah.
say any other fast foods, but you can
Right.
work down that street,
Yeah.
on that other one.
Yeah.
So I say even the person, delivering the food or providing any kind of service, they
Yeah.
still have to have that face that says we value you.
Oh, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you really created that well within your team.
Mm-hmm.
But then next question to go a little deeper level is, so what can you do to create the culture of welcome within your students?
Mm. Yeah. So here's what I would it, kind of like. I think you have to back up a little bit even with
Sure.
that because like it's people and process. So if you have all of the incredible people, but they don't have the process to make those things work, like it just doesn't really work well. Like you can have incredible people, but if they don't know what they're doing, it doesn't matter. Um, so I won't go into all the detail. If any of you guys want to like reach out to me, I can tell you how we do everything. But the reality is what we say is a little bit different. We instead of people saying, or let me back up. Most people will say we chart this from entry to exit, right? From the
Okay.
moment they walk into the parking lot to the moment they leave. Like that's
Mhm.
not bad, but I think it's inadequate. I think it's a little incomplete. What we say is from entry to re-entry. What we're doing is we're trying to say how do we get people to go, basically to come back and to keep coming back.
Okay.
And so, clear signage in the parking lot, high energy. When we get to the check-in tent, our people are trained to be welcoming and awesome. We have a separate area for first-time guests, and we have
Good.
students. So our student leadership team, one of those things that's kind of like tied to that, is student leaders are taking rotations and they're at that tent. They're helping students feel
I
comfortable
love
when they
that.
come in. They're being
Good.
inquisitive. They're taking down information. Um, then during the service, those first time guests are getting like our check-in team adults are handwriting
Mhm.
cards for them and they get mailed out next day. But then at the
Love
end of
that
the
too.
night, our student leaders are our student leaders are actually sending out text messages to the first time guests. So for us, we look at it and we say, we can like create all of this, but if it's not students engaging students, we have far less retention. And so we try to incorporate our
Absolutely agree
student
with that.
leaders in the middle of it. And
I
so,
absolutely agree with that.
yeah, I mean, you've got to. I mean, one of the things that we see, students, adolescents, their brains are hardwired for rebellion because they are looking for autonomy. What's mine to own? And so, if we can get students to own the ministry, it'll just be far more effective. And so, we include our student leaders on our greeter teams and our parking teams and our setup teams. We put our student leaders like in the follow up teams, like they're there, but we have people developing them for all of those things in that character profile, saying like, hey, this is the kind of person you need to be when you get there. Be intentional, follow up, find the kid who's not engaged, like just the
Mhm.
whole thing.
So you can accomplish, I'm being a little sarcastic when I say this. So a student ministry leader, youth pastor, whatever, can accomplish that just
Mm,
by doing a couple of talks twice a year,
gosh, no.
right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Goes a
No,
little deeper than that, doesn't it?
yeah. So for us, we have a student leadership team. We have a middle school team and we have a high school team, and they run through the course of the entire school year, and they're getting cultural leadership and evangelism development throughout all of that. But then we
Mhm.
have layers that go deeper. This is a totally different conversation on leadership, but we
Mhm.
have layers that go even deeper than that with our disciple making intensives, with launching movements in schools, with um,
Mhm.
doing what we call a summer project, which is an 8-week Sent initiative. But in all of those things, we talk about character, we talk about what it looks like to love people well, to care for people well. But we also, in our talks, like we put together the intentional next steps thing. So, like, every talk has a very actionable, like, um, application point, but then the groups and then their conversations and then their dynamics are really helping students like walk these things out. And so we are regularly talking about what it looks like to be an invite culture where we're constantly inviting people in, where we're loving and caring for each other as brothers and sisters, and where we're like engaging a lost world. And so
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
don't you don't build a welcoming culture through a couple of talks. It has to be a core value. Like for us, we have 4 core values as a whole church, and community is one of them. So it's pervasive in all that we do. It permeates everything. And that's just how it has to be. So if you want a welcoming environment, it has to be the thing or one of the things.
Okay, so let's go from we have helped a new/newer student
Yeah.
feel welcomed.
Yeah.
But what about the student who's been in the church all these years? Your own boys, for example. You know, I think sometimes they can be left out. I mentioned to you off the air that as a pastor's son myself, no one ever looked at me and said, "Hey, Rich, thank you for being here tonight." It was assumed I would be there because that was, air quotes, my job
Yeah.
as a pastor's kid, to be in church.
Yeah.
And if for some reason I wasn't, which I never was allowed to skip, but if I wasn't, anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think sometimes we can overemphasize the internal, just us. That's a group mentality. And you know my heart and passion that we want to be a ministry, not a group. Or then we maybe swing the pendulum or take the steering wheel to the car, the other extreme, to go, we're so focused on the new person that we seem to forget, has someone really given an authentic, caring shout out, connection piece to those who are on the inside? So talk us through that. How do we make sure that everybody, no matter if they're on the inside or they're just newer, feels like I was valued, loved, and cared for tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk a lot about, at Mercy Hill, the language we use is from connected to the crowd to committed to the family. And we do that through what we call the Acts 2 flywheel, which is gather, group, give, go. And we hope that people get into that and just keep compounding in their discipleship. So we get people into the gathering. We want to help them stick by building relationships. But one of the things that we do is we get them plugged into groups. And so I'm a firm believer that it's really, really difficult to have a welcoming environment without a solid groups ministry. So because the reality is like, for us, we can have, at our back to school event, we had 500 students there. Like, it's easy to kind of just ease into the background. But I've also had ministries, like, I've had everything from 3 students in the ministry to like 500, you know. And so like for those in here, it's like, oh, he's just the mega church guy. It's like, well, I've also done this with like small environments. And so,
yes, you have.
And so the reality is like, this is a truth that transcends church size. If you do not have opportunities for those students, for every student to walk in and build friendships, you will have a hard time getting people to stick. So they have to be building friendships, and you do that through community, and you do that through closing the circle. Now, a while back, Fuller Institute kind of came out with this research that said, like, we used to do the 1 to 5, like 1 leader to every 5 adults, but they're saying, hey, if we can flip that and we have 5 gospel-centered adults for every 1 kid, like, they're more likely to stick. And so we push students to say, be a part of a group. So like they're in the gathering already, right? Be a part of a community group. Like get involved, be known and loved by those leaders, be known and loved by peers in that group. Then we ask them to join a serve team. We say, hey, like, we want you to really stick here. And all of those leaders, all of those team members that are there, those adults, are being trained to build welcoming environments for the people on their teams. And so we're saying, hey, the more you can get involved in the family, the more welcomed you're going to feel. But kind of a side note on that, we still live in a sin-fallen world. And so I'll put it like this, our 11th grade had this massive cultural issue about a month ago, just kind of blow up. And man, we saw it in their attendance. They were just dropping off. Like, you see like 40 11th graders, and then one week it's like 20, then 12. And it's like, what is going on? Well, there was a culture issue. And the way that we had to make them feel welcomed was to kind of step into their world and say, how do we shepherd and navigate conflict amongst these people? And as we did that, you start to see restoration and reconciliation. And so welcoming is a huge thing. And, you know, we naturally gravitate towards the first-time guests, like you're saying, toward making the kid, you know, retain and keep coming back. But it's an ongoing shepherding issue.
Yeah. What you just shared, interesting enough, excuse me, with the Fuller Institute, the research that was done on that. I'm a simple guy, but I saw that same need back
Oh yeah.
on the West Coast when I was serving out there. We actually had 5, let me say, like concentric circles
Yeah.
of touch points.
Hmm.
I wanted ideally students to be in, whether they knew it or not. They were already in a group.
Yeah.
I just if they were on the roster, they attended. In other words, same grade, same gender for contact purposes. Um, I'll make it really quick. But on breakouts on Sunday morning after my lesson, my sermon, my talk, whatever you want to call it, that quick touch point on reviewing the lesson and some application,
Hmm.
that was same grade, same gender. But Justin, you probably remember this in classes with me back in the day. But then on Wednesday nights, we pivoted to going to home groups based on high school campuses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even within that then took the big high school ministry down to smaller gatherings.
Hmm.
But what they had in common was the same high school
Yeah.
slash neighborhood, because any Christian school slash homeschool then was in that group. But even within that, after the conversational style of lesson,
Yeah.
they also had breakout groups, and those were intentionally mixed, same gender,
Hmm.
but for every 12th grade was a ninth grade, 11th grade, 10th grade. So what we were creating was on Sunday morning, you connected, let's say, take a ninth grader, for example, a ninth grade young man was connecting
Hmm.
with other ninth graders at different schools.
Yeah.
But if he went to Wednesday night, he was now intentionally connecting with those who were 11th and 12th grade. The goal was, to get them to rise up as mature follower of Jesus as a ninth or 10th grader, if my 11th and 12th graders were rising up in their own walks with
Right.
Jesus.
Right. Right.
What was also happening there was they had more adult connections
Yeah.
because they had a host family. Then we also wanted them in discipleship groups and accountability groups. And that was 4 and 5, 3 and 4. Then the
Hmm.
fifth one was a serving team. And just exactly what you created.
Yeah.
And I was just
Yeah.
realizing, again, and my simple mindset was the more adults they connect with, the greater the chance they have to stay in our church.
Mm.
And they did.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the greater connection they have with their peers.
Yeah.
And that really was one of the best ways to break down cliques in small group. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
By small group is that clique thing.
Yeah.
Because now they're being integrated into more than just one social gathering.
Yeah.
So I love how you put that together.
Mm.
And one thing I said, it's corny. Okay. It's corny, y'all. You can go ahead and chuckle if you want. But on Thursdays, I simply called it Thank You Thursdays.
Yeah.
I asked every one of our leaders on the Wednesday night to touch base with everyone who attended in their small group to say thank you.
Yeah.
And honestly, and just to say thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And I said
Yeah.
that no matter if it was our lead pastor's kids who were in the high school ministry, no matter if it was them,
Yeah.
my own son, to others, I don't care who they are. Everyone gets a authentic, genuine thank you for coming. And then I wanted the student leaders
Yeah.
to do the same thing as they saw them at school. Because again, they were in the same campus group. They probably see each other in school the next day. I just felt like, man, if I know I belong, I'm going to be here. Think of the adults that keep
Right.
bouncing from our
Right.
churches.
Right.
Lynchburg has 400 churches in the greater LYH.
Mm.
And constantly we are seeing people, well, I tried that church for a while. I did that church for a while. I'm into this church now. And I'm sure you see it in Greensboro.
Yeah. All over, man. We see
And
it a
it
lot.
usually comes down to, I just didn't feel connected.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is not an adolescent need, although adolescents scream for
Right.
connection.
Well, we're
It's
all
also an
looking for
adult need.
belonging, right? By the way, I'm gonna steal the
Absolutely.
Thank You Thursday thing because I think it's brilliant.
It's corny, but you can have it.
Here's why I think it's brilliant. Everyone is asking the question like about autonomy, especially
Right.
students. Like they want to know what's theirs to own. And so when if a leader writes out and says thank you, it actually celebrates that autonomy and says, "Hey, you made a choice to be here. I'm so glad you did." Like I think it's brilliant. So I'm going to steal it. I'm going to be setting up a meeting with my staff probably the next week. Hey, we're doing
Well,
this.
even before that, buddy, my goal personally as a student pastor
Yeah.
was every adult. This is in the weeds, okay? But here we go.
Yeah.
Every adult got from me,
Yeah.
my eyes looked in their eyes, and I said, I want to thank you and say
Man.
why
Yeah.
of them serving that, whether it was Sunday, that event on the weekend, the Wednesday night. Again, now I really value that as a volunteer.
Dude, love that.
Now
Yeah,
I'm on the other side of that now.
yeah, yeah,
So I wanted to make sure, and specifically the one who was new
yeah,
or newer, I really wanted them to know from me. I would say chase them down. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah,
Make sure I
absolutely.
try to connect with them. I got the same student that wants to talk to you after every Wednesday night lesson.
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah,
I said, excuse me for a minute. I wanted to go find that one who was new or newer to say, I want to thank you so much.
oh yeah,
The simplicity of just authentic care.
yeah,
Anyway, we're gonna keep moving on this. Grand Slam. So what we're doing is the same question
yeah,
I'm using for all three of these five, and here it is. What would be your Grand Slam when it comes to welcome? And I have 2 bullet points on this.
yeah,
Describe what you would both love to see within the ministry, your
yeah,
Grand Slam, and then describe within the personal life of your students,
yeah,
the Grand Slam, the big win.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. So I would say a first-time guest rolls up to the student ministry, gets plugged in, falls in love with the gospel, gets saved. So meaningful
Mhm.
connection begins with a meaningful connection with Christ. So falls in love with the gospel, gets saved, falls in love with the ministry, gets plugged into a group. They begin to build that. They become they kind of step off of the sideline or the bench. They
Mhm.
become an inviter, and they invite their unsaved friends.
Mhm.
And when their unsaved friends arrive, they are met by students and leaders who make them feel seen, valued, and known. And then that, this like second generation now, first time guest, gets
Mhm.
excited to keep coming back, eventually gets saved, gets plugged into the ministry. They become an inviter. Now let's go back to the first time guest, right? The first one.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
person sees the effectiveness of being an inviter and building a welcoming culture. And then that impact and how God's used them spurns them on for greater impact. And they step further into the missions pipeline, doing DMIs, launching movements, joining summer project, whatever it looks like,
Mhm.
church plants. And they go, hey, if God could use a welcoming culture and an invitation from me in that simple environment, what else could he do through my life?
Mhm.
That would be a
Mhm.
grand slam from a
Mhm.
student perspective or ministry perspective. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
that's both. Uh, Another grand slam for me
Yeah.
is a group leader. A group leader looks over, sees a student who is disengaged, and takes it upon themselves to go make them feel connected and plugged in. No one had to tell them how to do it. They
Yep.
just go do it. That to me, maybe it's not a grand slam, but it is definitely a home run.
You don't have to keep coaching them.
Yes, yes,
You've learned to coach them. They own it.
yeah. Because at that point, they're owning
Yeah.
culture, not just a process.
Right. Because again, it's the goal is Christ likeness.
Yes,
The
yes,
glue is relationships.
absolutely.
Because I've heard some parachurch organizations talk about relationships are the goal. And I'm thinking, no, being like Jesus and completing the mission of Jesus is the
Mm,
goal. Come on.
yeah, yeah,
But the glue is relationships.
absolutely.
We're going to begin to land this plane.
Well,
And I got something to share on this kind of when it comes down to this statement. So here we are.
mm,
When it comes down to it, welcome is not a side value.
mm,
It in reality is the structural integrity of a spiritually fit ministry.
well,
Worship can lift the hearts. And the word, of course, can shape the mind and change a life. But if a student walks into your room and feels unseen or unknown or even unnecessary, the impact of everything else will become diminished. So, welcome is where the gospel becomes tangible. It's where relationships, I love this, you ready? Become the runway for transformation.
mm,
It's
mm,
where the outsider discovers they have a place and the regular attender realizes they have a purpose. So, because as we get to the end of the day, I keep saying it, Christ likeness is the goal, but relationships are the glue. And a ministry that truly welcomes students is a ministry where the Holy Spirit now has the room to work deeply, consistently, and beautifully in the lives of these students that God has entrusted to your care. So here's my dream. Dream with me. Here is a room full of students. Ready? Students who instinctively move toward the new person because welcome has become their reflex. It's just
Mm-hmm.
automatic, not just their responsibility. It's a spirit thing, just not a functional thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Students also, dream with me, right? Students also create a culture that's so warm, so caring, so genuine, so others focus that someone who's new feels like family, even before the first worship set comes on, or Justin, even before you get up to do your lesson or your
Mm-hmm.
talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's already like they've made up their mind. I belong here.
Mm-hmm.
And then dream with me, a room full of students whose friendships become the living proof of the gospel. What's the essence of the gospel? Jesus connects us to the Father, right? So
Yeah.
these friendships are now living proof of that kind of love, bridging differences, healing loneliness, and showing the culture and the world around us that Jesus Christ and his community is the best place to be. We are the hottest ticket in town.
Yeah.
It's not because of what we do, it's because of how we love. Come on,
Yeah.
right? So, this is why your welcome matters. And this is why we must teach our students to be the
Mm-hmm.
caring hands and the feet of Jesus. And this is why spiritually fit ministries will create that caring and welcoming environment.
Yeah.
Well, every episode ends with a call to action. I've asked Justin to kind of give us his on the quick. Justin, I, as a leader, how could I personalize a sense of having a presence and a heart of being a welcoming person?
Yeah. And I do some self-evaluation. Are when it comes to relationships, when it comes to welcoming, are you the kind of leader your team could model their leadership after? I think it's a deep evaluation question. So, from the personal standpoint, man, take a look. How are you doing? Are you that kind of person?
Then how do I model it? And again, not to showboat it,
Yeah.
not to be a Pharisee, but like 1 Corinthians 11:1, follow me as I
Yeah.
follow Christ. So
Yeah.
how could I model it?
And I think you just got to do it. I don't. I think it has to be a core value. Like you have to
Mhm.
look at it and say, today I am going to hyper intentionally find the kid who's disconnected and help them get connected. Today I'm going to approach the leader and say thank you, like you talked about. Today I'm going
Mhm.
to find the kid that I think may be super connected and ask them if they will help other kids get connected.
Mhm. Mhm.
The
Mhm.
model is just to simply lead the way and just to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally is give us an action point on how can I teach this?
Yeah, man. I will tell you the phrase "we participate, not spectate" has been
Mm.
the biggest
Mm.
help in our ministry with our team. And so,
Mm.
we by modeling it, we naturally teach how to do it. By writing things down like a character profile, we give the culture that we're looking for.
Mhm.
But by
Mhm.
looking at your leaders and giving them these simple, like repeatable phrases like participate, don't spectate, we let them know what
Mm.
we expect out of
Mhm.
them. And so if you want to teach your team how to do it, man, be super, super clear that it's an expectation, but then
Yeah.
give them the support to help them accomplish it as they need it.
Wow. Justin, thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing your wisdom, your life with us, and this has been good. This has been fun.
Yeah.
So, listener, thank you so much for joining in the Next Gen Matters podcast. If today has ministered to you, I want to hear from you. Rich at nextgenmatters.com. I have my email also in the show notes, and I'll have Justin's email there as well for you to
Yeah.
reach out to him. I'd love to hear from you. Sincerely, love to get some feedback on how this has been of a benefit to you.
Mm.
Whether you listen to it at the beginning of when this is being released or a year or two from the release date, it doesn't matter. Reach out. Love to
Yeah.
hear from you.
Absolutely.
If you've not yet subscribed to our Thursday to email, please do. You can find the link in the show notes on that. And also, make sure you know the drill, right? Like and follow these on social platforms and get this word out. I am praying that God will grow this, not for my sake, but I sincerely want to see this be a resource to
Mm.
leaders to then help empower them to help their leaders become more effective. Justin, again, thanks for coming.
Absolutely. It's been
And
enjoyable.
lastly, to say, your leadership matters because your ministry matters, because the gospel matters.
Mhm.
Take care and have an exciting week.